Hey guys, welcome to Consistent Preterism. In the words of Jesus in the first century, I'll be right back. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to my show. My name is Jason DaCosta, and this is Consistent Preterism. Thank you for joining me today on this Monday. That intro that you just saw was done or assisted by David King. David King is the man, the myth, the legend. He's very talented when it comes to things in that department, as far as graphics and whatnot. Thank you, school bus, sir. Wow. School bus man saw that I was turning. He knew that he probably had about 46 stops to make, so he waved me ahead. What a good Samaritan. Anyways, back to the old intro. David King approached me and asked if he did a intro for me, if I wanted to write up some of the lines and kind of have a little intro. So that was what that was. Kind of cool. I'm digging it. So anyways, thanks, David. Let's see. Wow, the Super Bowl was last night. What a game. Chiefs and Niners. Really thought the Niners had that one. But the Chiefs were just too much, man. They just came back. They never stopped fighting. And, ended up taking the lead. And just a real good game. You know, it's always good when the game is at least competitive like that. Obviously, they got a scrub touchdown in the end. Garbage time touchdown the Chiefs did when it was basically over anyway. But, I mean, it should have ended 24-20, which would have been a pretty close game. But anyways, it ended 31-20, and Chiefs are Super Bowl champions. So congratulations to the Chiefs. I did have a couple of fun announcements to make. What's going to be happening over the next week or so is that, well, let's backtrack. A friend of mine had recently sent me a link, and he laughed and he said, "You got to check this out." And so usually when this happens, and it happens a good amount, I should say, usually when this happens, it's usually someone who is trying to refute IO. And there have been many that have tried over the years, the last couple of years. And obviously you can tell how successful they were by what has happened with Israel only. And if you're a, mainstream Christian and you believe that Jesus is going to come back in a helicopter taking bullets off the chest like Rambo in the future, then you probably don't see any of this. But if you are in the full preterist circles, meaning you understand that you have to do something with the time statements, you have to honor what Jesus said, right? Because everybody wants to honor what Jesus said, right? Except for when it comes to the time statements. When it comes to the time statements, nobody wants to honor what he said, right? Everybody wants to say, well, he didn't mean it, or, well, God's time is different, or, well, that doesn't mean what it clearly says it means. Like, for instance, Jesus looking at people and saying that surely he would come before some standing there died, and it would be at that point that he would come with all of his angels and judge each man according to his works. Ouchie. Hello, that Jesus said that, all right? But they don't want to believe it. They don't want to take it for what it says. Or like the Mount of Olives in Matthew 24, when Jesus said, all these things that I just said to you, every single thing that I just said to you, went right down the line, talked about wars, rumors of wars, earthquakes, famines, persecution, you being dragged before councils. All these things will take place in this generation. This generation, right? They don't want to believe that, even though if they actually looked at the Bible through their good eye, they'd see that all of those things that he predicted in the Mount of Olives actually come to pass in the years immediately after. Just go read the book of Acts. Just go read the book of Acts. You'll find wars, you'll find earthquakes, you'll find famines, you'll find persecutions, you'll find them being dragged before councils. Ouchie, ouchie, ouchie. Okay? So nobody wants to believe any of that. But if you are a full preterist and you realize that it's kind of uncomfortable to ignore those things, right? It's like cognitive dissonance kicks in and you're like, shit, I can't ignore this stuff, right? This is too clear. So, okay, let's develop a new view that says, sure, he already came. Sure, the final judgment took place. Sure, the resurrection already took place. Sure, the saints inherited the kingdom, but let's just change that. And let's make it mean like a little light switch change inside so that now, like, we're kind of living in heaven and on earth at the same time. Like, you see what they do. They have to modify the view and modify logic and common sense in order to keep skin in the game. So, but if you are in those types of movements, especially on Facebook, which I'm not, by the way, I was for many years, and then I left Facebook altogether because I find that it was a waste of time and it was making me into a zombie. But, you know, I just got sick of battling with wannabes every day. But point is that if you are in those circles and if you see the full preterist propaganda going around, chances are you've come across Israel Only, because it is growing. It is growing. I mean, I started off, and people may chuckle, but I started off with maybe 10 to 20 subscribers. When I first sent the word out, I sent forth the message from Babylon that I was putting up a YouTube channel and I was going to start teaching Israel-only topics. I probably had about 20, maybe 30 people that, you know, were kind of like following along already, and they just jumped on. Well, I mean, hey, you know, 2 years later, 450 subscribers. Not bad, especially since the message of full preterism is really not that widespread yet. I mean, that is growing too. But these types of things take time, right? And so, obviously, if full preterism isn't really, I mean, the leading dog in full preterism, Don Preston, has less than 5,000 subscribers. So to have almost 500 subscribers in just a couple of years, given all things considered, is not bad, you know. But I don't think that tells the true story. I think there's a lot of IOers out there, or closet IOers, who, for whatever reason, won't subscribe to my channel just out of pride or whatever the case may be. Maybe they've had an argument with me in the past and they don't want to, you know, let me see that they are now in agreement. Who knows, right? But I'm sure that many people are listening. And so I typically sometimes get these little messages saying, LOL, check this out. And then I listen to it and laugh. And that's what happened recently. And I clicked on the link, and you guessed it. You know who it was. His name is Matty Simon. Matthew Simon. And Matthew Simon, like I have said many times, has bounced around like a pinball through different Christian views, back and forth, back and forth. He's vomited and returned to that vomit many times. He used to hate anybody who said that God was going to judge people, and he would defend the truth of universalism, or whatever he called it, you know, violently. And if you disagreed with him that all people were saved by Jesus, he would block you. He'd give you the old stiff arm. And so he had his little dabble in that, and he produced many articles, many YouTube videos. Papa God loves you. We are perfect in Papa God. Papa God is perfect in righteousness. You know, he would put forth all these videos, and then all of a sudden he came into Israel Only, and man, was he pumped when he found Israel Only, let me tell you. So Matthew had never produced more audios in the short amount of time as he did when he came into Israel Only. And the reason is because Matthew has a good foundation on the Bible, right? Like, he's obviously anal about it, and he's ripped through it a lot. And so this was like a revelation big time for Matthew. Matthew was pumped. He had, you know, the biblical theological erection, so to speak. He was super happy that he was finally getting clarity on all this. It was making sense, right? But then after about 30 to 40 videos that he produced on YouTube, along with articles and all kinds of posts on Facebook, you know, espousing the truth of IO, things got a little too real for him, right? He started to dabble in the old myth vision stuff, like Roman propaganda, which is just a ball of nonsense, right? It just makes absolutely no sense. And once you start going down that road, like there's really like anything goes, you know, like it's all conspiracy. There's all kinds of ideas, like nothing's concrete, you know, like for instance, Dr. What's his name? Bob Price. Smart guy, brilliant guy, has all kinds of knowledge, but really none of it's cohesive. You know what I mean? Like he's got all this knowledge and he doesn't know what to do with it. And that's what a lot of these guys are. They're bowls of knowledge. They have all kinds of wisdom and different quotes, and they know about all these different historical people and figures and what they said and whatnot, but they're not putting the story together for what it actually says. So what they do is they make a buck off of the confusion aspect. They have to keep it confusing. They have to say it doesn't make sense, right? None of it makes sense. That's how they get their, rocks off. But when you realize Israel only exists, you start to say, wow, this actually makes a lot of sense of the story. At any time something makes that much sense, it's probably true. All right. But Maddie got a little bit too scared and he jumped off the ledge. So what happened next was Maddie deleted all of his videos, deleted all of his posts, deleted every comment on my channel, amongst other channels, basically tucked his tail between his legs and ran back to Papa God, where he is perfect. And what he did is he started blocking people. So he started to share videos and posts about Papa God's love, but it was a different message now. Like now he went back to the old days where God is going to judge people. There is a future coming. There is a final judgment in our future, ignoring all things that he knows Jesus said and all things that the New Testament says. And he goes back to futurism. And so now he's not a universalist. He's not an IOer. He's a full-blown dispensationalist. And you should see some of the nonsense that he comes up with. But you can always tell that a person is a coward and really knows that they're teaching nonsense when they don't allow people to comment, right? They don't allow people to comment on their videos, their posts, anything. So he doesn't want anybody to see the IOers chew him to bits. That's the bottom line, the nuts and bolts of it all. So he doesn't allow them to talk. He doesn't allow them to comment, right? But Matthew has put forth a handful of anti-IO videos recently, and this was one of them that was sent to me. And I listened to it. It was on the 144K, and boy, let me tell you, it was hilarious. All right, absolutely hilarious what this guy was trying to say about the 144K and the great multitude from Revelation 7. All right, and so what I decided is what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple of critiques on Matty Bar Simon's videos this coming week. Excuse me. And those videos are going to be done in typical form, how I critique, where I let it play and I stop it and whatnot. And I'm just going to rip it to shreds and show you just how ridiculous this guy's arguments are. Also, Michael Bradley, fellow IOer, you all probably know of him. Excuse me, I got a little case of the hiccups this morning. Michael Bradley is going to do a couple of critiques as well, one or two. And I'm going to hopefully get those in a format that I can share as well on my YouTube channel. So look out for those. They might be to you sooner than later. Just depends. I plan on doing some this week. I just don't know when. So keep an eye out for them. There'll be a few of them between me and Mike Bradley. And we're just going to look at some of the arguments, because the cool thing about doing that is it shows that the arguments against IO have no chance, right? It doesn't matter how stupid Matthew's arguments are. And boy, you're going to see they are stupid. But what it shows is that IO has answers for these stupid arguments. IO properly takes stupid arguments and properly places them where they need to be placed. It corrects these dumb arguments and shows where they actually need to be lining up, right? So IO is going to show that yet again. And there really hasn't been anything threatening to IO, really. I've been begging Don K. Preston to put out a series on IO, right, refuting it. He claims that he did a paper on the fullness of the Gentiles, where he ignorantly said that the fullness simply meant equal status as the Jews, right? You all remember that paper. And that was his refutation of IO, folks. That was his refutation of IO. I have 350 videos on my YouTube channel covering all sorts of topics from A to Z, all sorts of passages from the very first page of the Bible to the last, all showing that it's all Israel only. And yet Don did a paper on the fullness of the Gentiles, and he claims he disproved IO. So if you're a fan of Don K. Preston, if you're a listener of Don K. Preston, by the way, I can't comment on Don K. Preston's videos anymore. I've been banned from that channel. And I wasn't even that mean. I just was, back in the day, I would go on there and kind of like, slap his arguments around a little bit. And he didn't like it, so he blocked me. And now he won't even allow IO to be discussed in the comments, folks. I mean, it's kind of funny because futurism can be thrown around in those comments all he wants, all people wants, right? Because why? Because Don knows that he's got the better argument. Well, when it comes to Israel only, no chance. Israel only cannot be discussed in any of these comments. And why is that? Well, because he knows that Israel only has the better arguments, right? There's levels to this stuff. So he won't allow it. So I urge you, if you are a Don K. Preston fan, if you're a listener, if you enjoy his morning musings, why don't you guys petition him to make some videos against IO, to take a look at some of the IO arguments and do a 7,000-part series about IO. First of all, I can assure you that it would be a very well-watched and well-listened to series. People want to know. People know that IO makes a lot of sense. So it would be listened to. Secondly, you can make money off of it, Don, because you can monetize. You can have another 200 to 300 part YouTube series. You can teach 10 minutes a day. And if he did that, folks, if you could convince Donnie Boy to do something like this, I can assure you that I would do my best to rebuke and offer up a response to every single point that he makes. Not every single point, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of moot points, but the points that seem concerning, the points that might make a little sense, I will come back and I will show you how to properly interpret said points. Okay, so yeah, it's probably not going to happen because Don doesn't want to kick up dust. Don doesn't want to bring attention to the IO view, because if Don brings attention to the IO view, what that means is that people come to the IO view. People leave Don's view in the past and they come to the IO view. It's kind of like you step right over Don, right? And Don doesn't want that. Don wants people to step into his theology and stay there. That's how he makes money. That's how he sells books. So I don't think Don would do it. I challenge him to do it. There are IOers that would love to debate Don, but Don definitely won't do that either. IO has become an absolute force, okay? When the great Don Preston, the theologian that challenges everybody, including Dr. Michael Brown, probably James White, all these guys, he's challenged to debates, yet Don will not debate IO. Go figure, okay? Go figure. So, yeah, but back to Matthew Simon. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be cool. We're going to take a look at some of these cringeworthy arguments. And then also, Adam Marshalak commented on a recent audio and put forth just some ridiculous points that he thinks are, I guess, maybe devastating to the IO view. It was kind of laughable. But I am going to show in a soon-to-come audio how stupid Adam's points are and how irrelevant and how out of line and out of place they are. Adam went on quoting like priests and stuff. I mean, it's kind of funny how these guys, like, they don't go to the Bible as much anymore. They go to like church fathers and priests and like different quotes. Like, what happened to scripture alone and all these things, right? Like, once IO came along, the Bible actually doesn't mean as much, or it's not as important, right? They go to near-death experiences, all kinds of stuff. But I can remember when I was a Christian five years ago or so, it was like, well, the Bible's the final authority. If you can't find it in here, it's not true. We go to the Bible alone, blah, 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 blah. Well, that seems to have changed a little bit in certain circles because they realize that what the Bible actually says may not be as supportive as they once thought. So anyways, folks, I was going to get into a little Hebrews chapter 3 stuff today, 2 and 3, but I'll save it for another time. Just wanted to give you guys an update as to what's going to happen here over the next week or two. But yeah, look out for those critiques. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. I'm sure you're going to get a good laugh out of old perfect Matthew Simon and his perfect theology. And yeah, that's about it, folks. So hope y'all enjoyed this one. Really nothing biblical about it, just kind of a chat. And we will catch you on that flip side. Don't forget, give it a like or Ruski. All right, take care. Bye-bye.